South Africa has become a focal point for identity fraud, surpassing other nations on the African continent in the prevalence of such crimes. The recently published 2024 Digital Fraud Identity in Africa report by Smile ID has drawn attention to the alarming rise in identity fraud incidents within the country. Smile Africa ID is Africa's leading solution for digital identity verification, fraud detection, anti-money laundering, and KYC compliance. It helps businesses scale confidently across the continent by ensuring secure and reliable user identification and compliance with regulatory standards. This report is notable as it is the first to exclusively analyze identity fraud trends across Africa, providing critical insights into the growing crisis. The findings show that South Africa is leading in terms of ID fraud, with 80% of these attacks targeting national identity documents, making these documents the most exploited type. This troubling trend has been escalating over the past 4 years, with a consecutive rise in document and biometric fraud rates for 6 straight quarters since the second quarter of 2022. The report places South Africa's national ID at the top of the list, with 38% of fraud attempts recorded. Following South Africa are Tanzania at 32%, Kenya at 26%, Uganda at 25%, and Nigeria at 18%. The regions of Central and East Africa recorded the highest identity fraud rates in 2023, peaking at 29% and 30% respectively, while Southern Africa registered a 23% fraud rate. West Africa reported the lowest at 20%. The report also highlights specific patterns in fraudulent activities, with peaks occurring in the afternoon around 6 p.m. and reaching a high point at 9 p.m., particularly on Mondays and Wednesdays. These trends underline the strategic timing used by fraudsters to exploit systems when vigilance may be lower. Identity theft and fraud involve the unauthorized use of someone's personal information to commit fraud or other crimes. Given that the national identity document is widely used for various transactions, identity theft can have devastating effects, including financial losses, ruined credit, and significant damage to one's reputation. The Federal Trade Commission, FTC, reported that it received 5.7 million fraud and identity theft complaints in 2022, with 25% of these related to identity theft. In South Africa, the economic impact is severe, with estimates suggesting that identity theft costs the economy more than $1.5 billion annually. Despite ongoing efforts to bolster security, South Africa's older forms of identification, such as the Green Book ID, remain vulnerable to fraud. The introduction of the Smart ID card has been a significant step forward in reducing these risks. Smile ID reports a 5-fold decrease in fraud attempts with the Smart ID compared to the Green Book. However, the report stresses the importance of continued vigilance and proactive measures to combat identity fraud. Recommendations include regular monitoring of financial transactions, shredding sensitive documents, using strong and unique passwords, and avoiding the online sharing of personal information. The increase in phishing, vishing, and smishing attacks, which are attempts to deceive individuals into revealing personal information through emails, phone calls, or messages, further emphasizes the need for heightened security awareness. These attacks are not limited to South Africa but are part of a global trend in identity fraud. International studies indicate that nearly 1/3 of Americans have been victims of such crimes, demonstrating the widespread nature of the threat. The Smile ID report offers a guide on implementing a comprehensive anti-fraud system to protect both individuals and organizations. In response to this growing crisis, South Africa's Department of Home Affairs has intensified its efforts to tackle identity fraud. Despite these efforts, the problem remains a significant challenge, with fraudsters continuously evolving their techniques. The report underscores the importance of adopting cutting-edge technologies and strategies to stay ahead of fraudsters. This includes the deployment of biometric verification, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to detect and prevent fraudulent activities. The ramifications of identity fraud go far beyond financial losses. Victims often suffer emotional distress, a loss of trust, and long-term damage to their reputation. Resolving issues related to identity theft can be a lengthy and arduous process, sometimes taking months or even years to fully resolve. The report cites several cases where individuals have struggled for extended periods to restore their credit and clear their names after falling victim to identity fraud. South Africa has also seen a dramatic increase in impersonation fraud, with the Southern African Fraud Prevention Services (SAFPS) reporting a staggering 356% rise in such cases between April 2022 and April 2023. This surge is largely due to data breaches and the widespread compromise of personal data. SAFPS has been at the forefront of documenting and addressing these issues, and their latest report highlights the severity of the situation, noting that the trend has continued into 2024 without any signs of abating. The rise in impersonation fraud has far-reaching consequences for both individuals and businesses across South Africa. The frequency of personal data breaches has increased, with cybercriminals exploiting system vulnerabilities to gain access to sensitive information. This stolen data is then used to impersonate individuals, leading to unauthorized bank transactions, the opening of fraudulent credit accounts, and other financial crimes. The impact on victims can be devastating, often resulting in significant financial loss, damage to credit ratings, and emotional trauma. One particularly notable incident occurred in late 2022 when a major data breach at a prominent financial institution in Johannesburg exposed the personal information of thousands of customers. This breach included names, addresses, and identification numbers, all of which were quickly exploited by fraudsters, leading to a surge in impersonation fraud cases. The financial institution, which remains unnamed due to ongoing investigations, has since implemented stricter security measures. However, the breach caused lasting damage, with many customers facing the challenging task of reclaiming their identities and rectifying fraudulent transactions. The increasing sophistication of cybercriminals is a key factor driving the rise in impersonation fraud. Advances in technology have enabled fraudsters to create more convincing fake identities, making it more difficult to detect fraudulent activities. The use of deepfake technology, which allows the creation of realistic but fake images, videos, and audio recordings, has added a new layer of complexity to the issue. In a high-profile case, a senior executive at a multinational company based in Cape Town was deceived into transferring millions of rand to a fraudster using deepfake technology to impersonate the company's CEO during a video call. Recognizing the severity of the impersonation fraud crisis, the South African government has undertaken several initiatives to address the issue. In early 2023, the Department of Home Affairs announced a series of measures aimed at enhancing the security of personal data and reducing the risk of identity theft. These measures include the rollout of new, more secure identity documents and the implementation of advanced biometric verification systems. The government is also collaborating with financial institutions and other stakeholders to improve data protection measures and raise awareness about the risks of impersonation fraud. Despite these efforts, the challenge remains significant. SAFPS has called for increased collaboration between the public and private sectors to combat impersonation fraud more effectively. They emphasize the need for ongoing education and awareness campaigns to help individuals protect their personal information and recognize the signs of fraud. SAFPS also stresses the importance of promptly reporting fraud incidents to enable swift action and minimize the impact on victims. Individuals can also take several steps to protect themselves from impersonation fraud. These include regularly monitoring financial statements for unauthorized transactions, using strong and unique passwords for online accounts, and being cautious about sharing personal information online. Multi-factor authentication, when available, provides an additional layer of security, and vigilance against phishing attempts is crucial, as these are common methods used by fraudsters to obtain personal information. The dramatic rise in impersonation fraud in South Africa serves as a stark reminder of the critical importance of data security in the digital age. As cybercriminals continue to refine their methods of deception, it is imperative for individuals, businesses, and governments to stay vigilant and proactive in protecting personal information. The SAFPS report underscores the urgent need for comprehensive measures to combat impersonation fraud and safeguard the identities of South Africans. In August 2024, South Africa's Department of Home Affairs launched a comprehensive crackdown on identity fraud, implementing stringent measures to combat the rising tide of fraudulent activities. The department announced plans to cancel identity documents and smart ID cards of individuals whose identity numbers had been compromised, a decisive action aimed at enhancing the security of personal identification and restoring public confidence in the national identity system. This crackdown is a response to the significant increase in identity fraud cases that have plagued the country in recent years. Under the leadership of Minister Dr. Leon Schreiber, who took office in July 2024, the Department of Home Affairs has prioritized the fight against identity fraud. Dr. Schreiber's tenure has been marked by a series of reforms focused on tightening security measures and improving the integrity of the National Identity Database. A key component of this crackdown is the cancellation of identity documents and smart ID cards linked to compromised identity numbers. By invalidating these documents, the department aims to prevent fraudsters from using stolen or fake identities to commit crimes. Thousands of compromised identity numbers have been identified through advanced verification systems, and the process of invalidating the associated documents is underway. This action is expected to significantly reduce the incidence of identity fraud and protect the identities of law-abiding citizens. The Department of Home Affairs is also working closely with other government agencies and private sector partners to address the root causes of identity fraud. This includes enhancing data security protocols, implementing biometric verification systems, and conducting regular audits of the National Identity Database. The department's anti-corruption branch has been particularly active in investigating and prosecuting cases of identity fraud. In one notable case, former Home Affairs official Judy Zuma was sentenced to 12 years in prison by the Durban Commercial Crime Court in August 2024 for her involvement in a syndicate that sold fraudulent identity documents. This case highlights the department's commitment to eliminating corruption within its ranks and ensuring accountability for those responsible for identity fraud. Public awareness campaigns have also been a crucial part of the crackdown. The Department of Home Affairs has launched initiatives to educate citizens about the risks of identity fraud and the steps they can take to protect themselves. These campaigns have been supported by various stakeholders, including financial institutions, which have played a key role in disseminating information to their customers. In addition to combating identity fraud, the Department of Home Affairs has made significant progress in clearing backlogs in identity document applications. This effort has been driven by the need to ensure that citizens receive their identification documents promptly, reducing the risk of identity theft due to delays. The department's streamlined application process, combined with increased staffing and resources, has led to a substantial reduction in wait times for new identity documents. Looking ahead, the Department of Home Affairs plans to continue its crackdown on identity fraud with additional measures to further secure the national identity system. This includes the introduction of next-generation smart ID cards with enhanced security features, such as embedded biometric data and advanced encryption technologies. These new cards are expected to be rolled out nationwide by 2025. The success of the crackdown on identity fraud in South Africa will ultimately depend on the continued commitment of the government, private sector, and citizens to safeguarding personal information and preventing fraud. By working together, South Africa can effectively combat the growing threat of identity fraud and protect the identities of its citizens. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more updates.